this video, we're going to talk about how to simplify a square root over 100. I have two different ways that I like to show you, and you can choose either way that you want, doesn't matter. So I'm going to show you both ways, and you get to pick your favorite. I don't really care which method you choose, whatever one you find to be the one that makes the most sense. So the first method, I've gone over here and this numbers on the side is for method number 2. So for method number 1, basically what we're going to do is we need to take 150 and we need to break it up into its factors. We're going to make what's called a factor tree, and we want to make this out of prime numbers only. So here's what we're going to do. I want any two numbers that are going to multiply to 150. So I'm going to pick 75 times 2. Now, a prime number, just in case you forget, is a number. Here, we'll list them over here. Prime numbers are only numbers that have factors of 1 in itself. So my prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7. 9 is not a prime number because 3 times 3 is 9. 11, 13, 15 is not, but 17 and 19. That's probably about as high as we need to go. Okay, so 2 is a prime number. So when I get to a prime number, I underline it. And then I want to ask myself, what two numbers multiply to 75? Well, 25 times 3 multiplies to 75. And I'm going to find any prime numbers that I have. I'm going to underline them. And what multiplies to 25? 5 times 5. And I'm going to underline 5 is also a prime number, so I'm going to underline it. So now, here's what I do. And this happens to work for all different kinds of roots. So the number here in this corner, it's called the index, and if there's no number there, it's really a 2. Whoops. What that means is, what number, so I need to take two numbers that multiply by itself. That's what it means to be a square root. So what I'm trying to find is, if I'm looking at all my numbers, all my prime numbers, I want to find numbers that have a match, because that means that they have a pair, because 5 times 5 is 25, and the square root of 25 is 5. So what I'm going to do is, if I have a pair, I'm going to take that outside of my square root and write the number one time. Then something that doesn't have a pair, like this 3, goes back inside the square root, and so does this 2. So this would write 3 times 2, and I multiply the numbers together. So I end up with 5 times the square root of 6. And that would be my final answer. Okay. Now the second method, we're not going to use a factor tree. We're just going to look at and see, we're going to use this chart that I made on the right hand side. And I want to look at these numbers here. Out of all of these numbers, I want to find the biggest number that goes into 150. So then by goes into, I mean like is a factor, or you can do 150 divided by that number and get an even number. So you can't do 150 by 50 divided by 4. We don't use 1 because we're not trying to take 1 out. So we start with 2, and 2 squared is 4. So 150 is not divisible by 4. 150 is not divisible by 9. It's not divisible by 16, but it is divisible by 25. Okay, so I want to see, is there any bigger number that goes into 150 that I could divide 150 by and get an even number, or a whole number rather? 150 you can't divide by 36, or 49, or 64, or 81, 100, 150 divided by 121, no. 150 divided by 144, no. 150 divided by 169, now we're too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, what is 150 divided by 25? Or 25 times how much is going to give me 150? That's the same as 25 times 6. That's equal to 150. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the rule of square roots. The rule of square roots says that I can split this up into two separate square roots. This can now be the square root of 25 times the square root of 6. But I happen to know that we figured out that the square root of 25 is 5. So I can simplify this. This becomes 5 times the square root of 6. And that's my final answer. So either way, you get the same answer. It just depends on which method you like better. And I don't care which one you want to choose. Let me know if you have any other questions. Good luck.